So why are people complaining about yellow spray paint these days? Do they just really like overtaking other cars and are mad about the double lines that say they can't? No, that's not why people were down on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It was the climbable ledge sequences, a recurring gameplay feature in modern games, often marked by yellow spray paint or some other characteristic making them distinct from non-climbable background walls. And this is another thing to which I've decided to give one of my asshole dismissive signifying names. Are you ready? I call this corridor climbing. The conditions that characterize corridor climbing, commonly, are firstly that the player is only permitted to climb on these designated ledges. It's not one of those games where you can organically climb anywhere or dangle off anything ledge-shaped. Secondly, the ledges are always laid out in rigidly linear sequences designed only to get you from A to B. In other words, they are, functionally, corridors, just vertical instead of horizontal and requiring a different movement animation. There's no actual organic challenge to it except not pressing the let go button that makes you fall to your clumsy death. If the climbing sequence even lets you do that, and I've played plenty that don't, it's very egregious in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Every now and again there's a perfectly vertical stack of yellow ledges. Press the contextual action button next to them, Cloud grabs on, and then you just hold up until you reach the top. Might as well have been a fucking ladder. Why can't you run up the wall or leap the entire height in a single bound, Cloud? What the fuck kind of anime protagonist are you? But you'll see this sort of thing in a lot of modern games, especially ghost train rides that want to pretend they're more than just walking from one room to the next. I'm pretty sure it's being used to hide background loading at times because you spend most of it staring at a wall. This seems to be the current evolutionary state of platforming in AAA games, and it's upsetting to see. It's like watching a half-blind farmyard chicken failing to catch a worm and remembering it used to be a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Platforming was one of the original tentpole genres of video games from Donkey Kong onwards. It was so ubiquitous that games like Contra, primarily a shooter, would just also be a platformer, like incidentally, because it was in essence the default form that any side-on game would take. It was the best way to make the most of the play space available. So, what happened? 3D is what happened, matey. The rise of the FPS on PCs giving way to the rise of the third-person full 3D games on consoles, and platforming was one of the many casualties of that transition. Not that platforming didn't try to stick around for the sake of old times and pure bloody-minded stubbornness. The early PS1 era was rife with mostly awful 3D platformers, and the first full 3D FPSs, like Quake and Half-Life, were loaded with jumping challenges which the entire universe, in retrospect, agrees were terrible. You see, platforming as a gameplay system challenges precision of movement, timing of jumps, correct judging of distance, and the addition of a third dimension complicates all of that exponentially, to the point of no longer being fun. Where previously you only had to worry about making sure a platform was directly below you, now you have to also make sure you're not in front of or behind it. And how certain are you that any given push of the analog stick will take you in the desired direction? If you're not willing to do what Nintendo did and work your happy little balls off refining Mario 64 till it feels fun to play regardless, the end result is something like a Bubsy 3D, something best forgotten about. And as for those first-person jumping challenges, as I say, platforming is a challenge of precision, and it's very difficult to be precise about your jumps or where you're landing when you can't see your fucking feet. That kind of platforming works in 2D because the camera's focus is always on where the player character is. In first-person and chase camera third-person, the focus is on what the player is looking at, so it's far more comfortable with shooting than with traversal. That's why, as time wore on, first-person games hit upon the parkour style of platforming, less about precise landings and more about lining yourself up with where you want to go and pushing forwards. In essence, first-person shooting, but where you, the player, are the bullet. Mirror's Edge managed that part all right, and was followed up by Dying Light, then by Titanfall 2, and the indie breakthrough was a little game called Neon White. But how does climbing fit into this? Well, such things predate 3D gameplay in a little subgenre variously called the realistic or cinematic platformer, codified by the original Prince of Persia, where, in contrast to Mario, leaping 8 times his own height with his little stubby legs, Jordan Mechner's rotoscoped hero could only jump just high enough to grab an overhead ledge before hauling himself up with his arms. You ever tried doing that, incidentally? Pulling yourself up onto a ledge with just your arms? You either need to be Popeye or weigh less than a fucking biscuit. And when the big shift to 3D happened, the torch of realistic platforming was carried initially by a little game called Tomb Raider, which you may have rediscovered lately if you picked up the re-release. It's strange to replay it with the original controls and without all the quality of life improvements we've come to expect from climbing and platforming in full 3D. It's so clunky and fiddly, with lots of inching carefully to the edge of things before jumping. If you press forward now, there'll be no cute stumbling to arrest your fall, no last-minute transitions into ledge dangling. You're falling off that fucking ledge, madam. Nevertheless, Tomb Raider was a hit, and an influential one. Multiple imitators sprang up, one of which was a Prince of Persia, in a case of the master becoming the student. Prince of Persia 3D, now largely forgotten thanks to a bungled launch and being generally a big pile of stinky bottoms. But after the clunky Tomb Raider style stagnated over the course of about 19 too many Tomb Raider sequels, it would be Prince of Persia that would spearhead the next evolution of realistic platforming with The Sands of Time, in which it became quite a bit less realistic. Funnily enough, it successfully removed the clunkiness by embracing a faster, more parkour-influenced movement style. And isn't it funny how parkour seems to be the recurring secret spice that fixes 3D platforming? The ability to flow from one movement skill to the next made the traversal challenges eminently satisfying to pull off, but it's worth noting that Sands of Time could only maintain that flow because of the idiosyncratic time manipulation ability that meant any fuck-up could be swiftly reversed. When the Assassin's Creed series picked up the same parkour concept, it turned into hold down a button and push in a direction to go, because we wanted the same empowering sense of flow without having to deal with so many annoying fuck-ups. And from there, the evolution, or devolution if you will, can be traced through Uncharted and the new Tomb Raiders. Blimey, history runs in cycles, until we get to the corridor-climbing yellow spray paint brigade of today, to which there has been a certain amount of pushback with games like Jusant and a difficult game about climbing, trying to bring some kind of precision challenge back to the platforming process, but you might notice that those games are almost entirely based around their platforming mechanics. The same could be said for the aforementioned Mirror's Edge, Sands of Time, Neon White, and the original Tomb Raider, and the recurring issue shared by all of those games is that the combat kinda sucks. As I said, 3D gameplay complicates traversal exponentially, so if you want to make any kind of meat out of platforming mechanics, you kinda need to focus on them. The days of Contra, when platforming could just be an incidental part of a game, are over. AAA exists in the age of the Jiminy Cockthroat model, where as many game mechanics as possible have to be smashed together into bland open worlds for the sake of broad appeal, and with everything else crowding the space, there isn't room to give traversal mechanics the attention they need, and the end result is corridor climbing. So there you go, that's how we got here. And if you like platforming, you're gonna have to get in the same boat as the people who like point-and-click adventures and stick to 2D retro-style indie games. But hey, it's a nice boat. The alternative is the AAA boat, which at the moment is one of those quarantined cruise liners where there's been an outbreak of dysentery and the toilets are all backed up. In fact, let's open up that advice to everyone. Just play indie games. That could have saved a bit of time.
This video is brought to you by Game Maker, the free, fast, and easy-to-use 2D game engine that helped power modern classics like Undertale, Hotline Miami, and Hyper Light Drifter. Starter templates, official asset bundles, and a wealth of tutorials are available to help bring your ideas to life. And you can export and share your game for free on all non-console platforms. But you don't have to take my word for it, I'm just some jerk. We have an actual bona fide Game Maker on hand.
Oh shit, that's me. Yes, I've been using Game Maker for a long time. It's probably the most powerful and easiest to use engine for making 2D games out there, suitable for both amateurs and hardcore coders, and with all the Steam and console integration stuff for when you're ready to start monetizing your hobbies. I'm using it for my upcoming smash hit game Starstruck Vagabond, which I assume will be a smash hit because Game Maker's that bloody great.
Head on over to the Game Maker link in the description to begin your game development journey today.